Now please recognize Mr. McGovern for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate the witnesses' time, and I've learned a few things during the testimony, but I don't have any questions for them directly. I want to express some frustration, not with you, but kind of with this Congress. I'm worried about where Congress is going, and I have to be frank. I think this hearing smells like cover for what Republicans on this committee actually want to do about pesticide policy. It's not the kind of innovation and precision that some of our witnesses touched on. They're pursuing toxic substance deregulation and liability shields for multi-billion-dollar corporations. Look what's happening right now in the Interior Appropriations Committee. And they don't want some of their voters who care about pesticide reform to know that's what they're after. So we're having a hearing to make it look like we're all on the same page. Look, we use over 1 billion pounds of pesticides in this country every year. And look, I understand why that's important. I visit my local farms regularly, and we talk about the challenges that farmers face while protecting their crops. And I'm not interested in telling farmers how to do their job, but I am interested in protecting those farmers, their families, and their employees from clear and present danger. They need to know that the inputs they use aren't going to make them sick, and it's our job to set up a system that takes that burden off their plate. Fully 1/3 of pesticides used in the U.S. are banned in other countries, in Europe and Canada, and even China and others, because rigorous independent science has confirmed that they present an unacceptable risk to human health. And I've been working on reasonable pesticide reform for a long time. I think that's the direction that we ought to move in, but that's not where we're at. But I just want to say something else in terms of expressing my frustration. Mr. Chair, last Friday, my colleague from Massachusetts, Ayanna Presley, and I attended a listening session sponsored by an organization called Project Bread on SNAP with local and state government officials, leaders of nonprofits, but most importantly with people with lived experiences. Food insecurity and hunger is on the rise in this country, and people are really worried about the impact that this big, ugly bill that has just been signed into law is going to have on them. We ought to be doing a hearing on that right now, what the impacts of the big, ugly bill are going to be in terms of hiking up food insecurity and hunger in this country. People are struggling. They are working harder than ever and having difficulty putting food on the table. SNAP recipients are increasingly relying more on food pantries, on food banks, on faith-based organizations to make sure that their families have enough to eat. They made it clear that the benefit that currently exists, which is about $2 per person per meal, is not enough. And they expressed horror about what is coming as a result of the legislation that this Congress passed. I mean, state officials are worried about how they're going to deal with the added burden, hundreds of millions of dollars in additional responsibility to make sure people in their states don't go hungry. They don't know how they're going to do it. And we talked to grandmothers and single parents and workers who think that Washington doesn't care. Look, this committee is responsible for the cuts that are in reconciliation with regard to SNAP. And I have to be honest with you, we can't have business as usual. We can't make believe like there's no big deal, that everything's just going to work out, because it is not. And I've been reading about talk about a new farm bill and about how we're going to throw a few sweeteners here and there to try to see whether we can pass a farm bill. I don't know how we can move on a farm bill unless we fix reconciliation. And I, speaking for myself, do not want to be complicit in covering up a Republican strategy that will dramatically increase food insecurity and hunger in America. I think it is important for this committee not just to move on. I think it's important for people to demand answers and to try to find solutions about what we're going to do when people lose their benefits. And again, working people who are on the benefit right now, you can't make ends meet. And single mothers and grandmothers, we heard the testimony. It's heartbreaking. If you've ever met a hungry child in this country, it breaks your heart. And I worry very much that as a result of what this Congress has done, what Republicans and Donald Trump have done, we are going to see a huge spike. It is unacceptable. We cannot have business as usual. We ought to be doing hearings on that. And we ought to be figuring out a way to fix reconciliation. It was rushed through. There's new policy that we had no hearings on. We need to do better, and I urge my colleagues, again, to prioritize the issue of hunger and food insecurity, which is getting worse. I yield back.